How you doing, Leslie?
I'm doing great. How are you?
How you guys doing? How's chat doing?
Whoa. Hello, guys. Happy Friday.
So let us know. Sorry about this whole janky setup right now. The microphone's right here. Hopefully you guys can hear us. Let us know.
It's probably only janky to us.
Oh no, it's definitely janky.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It's perfectly. It's incredibly janky. Oh, even my face is janky because we're doing reverse thing. I've had this persistent. Oh no, that's a different one. Yeah, so I have this persistent like
You have a
pimple.
blemish.
It's been here for like a month or so. It's
I
really
haven't noticed
interesting. At some point, somebody was gonna use AI to just go through all my videos and like show how my face has changed over the years. You know, with all the haircuts, you'll have like this nice little morphe thing. You ever
That'd be
seen those?
interesting. Yeah.
Like where a guy takes a picture of his daughter on her birthday every year. And
It's
he's,
cute. Yeah. You want to see one of those of you?
No, I'm just sure it's gonna happen at some point. You know, because I'm an influencer, so I'm highly.
What do you influence people to do?
No, it's what I'm influenced by people to do.
Oh, is that what it is? No, then that would be an influencee.
Yeah, influence say.
You're an influencer.
Am I,
What
though?
are you making people do?
I haven't made anybody do nothing. I've never once coerced anybody.
How about influenced?
How about influence? Let's see if this is even
I bet there
working.
are more beards since you've been doing your Evergreen.
Beards.
Style two
Okay.
little black dresses
That's
for
not
day and
what I
night.
wanted.
We use
That's an ad.
Okay, yeah. So,
All right.
so what we're here to do tonight? What are we here to do tonight, Lele?
Part 2 of the
Complete
Evergreen.
story, which
Yay.
I assembled over the course of 3 years, I guess, between 2017 and 2020. That's how I did all of the research, and then I started publishing them. And the first episodes came out in the fall of 2019, and there's 24, and we are on the fifth one. The fifth one is interesting. The fifth one has this little blemish in it. And so this is the first time I'm going to watch it. I'm going to make sure that I did my job correctly because I might have not done my job correctly. There's a subplot in this particular one that people are like, to this day, they comment on. It's like, what was about that subplot? Why did you put that in there? And what happened? And I think I included the whole thing. I think I included the resolution, but the resolution was so like nothing compared to everything else going on that it's
okay.
like it was really a balance between the completely quotidian or mundane activity of what the police actually did on Evergreen campus as opposed to what they're accused of doing, which is basically macing a bunch of POC or BIPOC.
Yeah.
Take your pick. So did you have any questions or thought from last time before we launch in?
No, I'm ready to see the rest of the story. I guess one thing interesting that I felt like we were observing people who were acting well beneath their age. Like it was really interesting to witness what seemed like a lot of immaturity. And then you did was it this past week or the week before? You did a video on some current stuff that's going on at Evergreen. You used some footage from the current sort of protests that are going on.
I just
and it was
had
the
one
same
clip.
thing. And it was really just interesting. And I don't think it's necessarily Evergreen specific, but it's just interesting to see that juvenile behavior from what are essentially young adults.
And you could, when Evergreen first happened, people thought that Evergreen was a school for retards. But then you look at what happens across campuses,
Yeah.
so it's not just isolated.
No, it
though
globalizes.
Evergreen is not the cream of the crop, unless you think of cream as shit, which floats to the top. So in that way, you know, like they might be the cream of the crop or the froth of the
Gross.
crop. Yeah, there's
Okay.
other words that are coming to mind, but I'm not gonna use those. So
Yeah.
without further ado, should we dump in? This is
Dump in?
dump in.
Yeah, let's go ahead and dump right in.
Yeah, I really appreciate you joining me for these videos. I just want to let you know that. And thanks, chat, and thanks for everybody for joining us.
thanks
So
for
let's go
doing
on
it
this.
with
I know it's kind of janky for me to be moving this around the whole time, so you'll just see our little pip, picture in picture up there.
Oh,
so
but yes. Not
let's-
personal injury protection.
she's an insurance head. Okay, so
Evergreen Police.
Hi, I'm calling from the Performing Arts Scene Shop. There's someone left their dog in their car
in the handicap spot outside of our loading dock. The dog's been in there for like half an hour or so, maybe more, and the sun's on the window. I was wondering if you'd come over and maybe we can try to figure it out.
We can try. We're super, super low staff, and because of the event that happened earlier today, we're on lockdown. So Mike can talk to my officers and see if they want to go over there.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
During the meeting between protesters and the Bridges administration, Afropunk.com published an article about that morning's protest to Brett Weinstein, based on student reports of quote-unquote excessive police backlash. The students in Afropunk were taking advantage of the Black Lives Matter movement, which in 2017 was possibly at its climax as far as public attention was concerned. Occupy Wall Street, which had replaced the anti-war movement, had come and gone, and the Me Too hashtag had yet taken hold. In fact, on Evergreen campus, not a few administrators and faculty had Black Lives Matter posters hanging in their windows. If the coinage holds true, that, if you want to know who is in charge, then find out who you can't criticize, applying this to a slogan might show us what ideology is currently in vogue.
I'd like for someone on the panel to describe the difference between Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter.
I think about on this campus, one of the ways that this kind of pushback that says all lives matter is, I think it happens, I mean, the best I can kind of come up with, I'm not white, so I don't know, maybe y'all can help me with this, is I think it's insecurity, right? I think it's this idea that by someone saying Black Lives Matter is saying you matter less, right? Because what would have to be kind of acknowledged is that because of this thing that is unearned, you've actually had a position where life has actually mattered more. And so no one's looking to devalue anybody so much as have like incremental attempts at evening the playing field. And I personally experience that response as violent, right? Because it's somebody trying to say, I'm asserting my life. Right? I'm asserting my dignity. I'm asserting my capacity to just walk out my house and do what I need to do without getting shot, right? And other people just not being able to hear it. I respond to that as violent. I experience it in that way. And I think that, that would be the easiest way that I can think about the comparison between the two.
In early October, it was reported to me that a number of hashtag White Lives Matter flyers had been found around campus. My heart sunk when it was reported to me. And after consulting with a small group of colleagues, I made the decision not to share this report with the Bias Incident Response Team. And part of my rationale at the time was leaning toward a strategy, which is sometimes the right strategy, to minimize and quote-unquote ignore the act in an effort to lessen its power and impact, versus, of course, the alternative, which is to elevate and draw attention and use the opportunity to engage with more speech and education to address the incident. As I reflected, it has been important for me to recognize, and discouraging, for me to recognize that that judgment call was informed by my failure to step out of my personal worldview, largely informed by the fact that I'm white. And I thought I knew better. I'm disappointed and I'm embarrassed by that journey and that learning. And I'm especially concerned about it because I serve in a position that absolutely must do better if we're collectively going to better serve our students and colleagues of color.
Also during the meeting between Bridges and the protesters, the college communications officer, Zach Powers, sent the following email to all Evergreen students, staff, and faculty. Community forum regarding equity concerns today at 4 p.m. All Evergreen students are invited to join President George Bridges this afternoon at 4 p.m. in Library 4300 for a community forum about student-raised equity concerns at the college, Following a student demonstration and impromptu community forum on campus this morning, President Bridges and other Evergreen administrators are currently meeting with student leaders to discuss specific action items that will be set in motion immediately. These items will be shared at the 4 p.m. forum. The forum will also be an opportunity for students to provide additional feedback to college leaders. Now, Library 4300 under no circumstances can hold all Evergreen students, and as well, there's only one exit and entrance from this room. One additional note is the line, President Bridges and other Evergreen administrators are currently meeting with student leaders. First of all, who elected them student leaders? And secondly, what effect does calling them student leaders have?
Hello?
Hi, I'm looking for Davis. This is Evergreen Police Department.
Oh, this is her son, but I'm not sure exactly where she is. Sorry.
Okay, well, what we're trying to find right now is who has the truck on campus with the dog in it.
Oh, that would be my mom, probably, yeah.
Okay, the dog is in a hot vehicle panting. My officers are out there as we speak. So if you have some way to get a hold of your mother, she needs to get to that truck immediately.
Okay, yeah, I was just trying to get a hold of her anyways. But she's at the rec center. That's where you could find her. I don't really have a key to the truck.
Okay,
Otherwise,
she doesn't have another cell phone or another phone number?
Only the one that I've been trying.
Okay. All right, well, I'll see if I can get a hold of at the CRC. All right,
Okay.
Thank you.
So yeah, lunch happened. It was announced that there was going to be a meeting in the library, which we all decided to go to. And Brett kind of asked different students, like, is this a thing that he should be present at or not be present at?
Somebody later found out that it would be okay for me to go. So I said, well, I'm going. I remember them thinking that wasn't such a hot idea. They thought it was dangerous. And I said, well, they're asking for me to be fired. I really think I should be there. And a number of them said, well, we don't want you going in there alone. We want to go with you. And I said, well, that's a great idea. I would appreciate having other people present.
I was already with a fellow student in the class, and we had gotten to the library and we saw another group of people in our class walking towards the library, so we waited for them to join us because there were a bunch of people who we had recognized from the protest standing around the elevator, and so we kind of just wanted to, I'm not sure, we'd all been videotaped, so we knew that people knew what we looked like. So we waited for them, and then we all went up the stairs together, and it felt like there were a couple people following us. And then we got up to the top of the stairs, and there was a group of people kind of standing in a half circle, and one person who was standing there talking to them, and she was explaining that they needed to hide their mace and their tasers because the police could come, and they didn't want anyone to be expelled or punished or reprimanded. So we were kind of, I guess we didn't know what they were talking about at first, and then we kind of stopped and were listening, and once they saw us, they recognized us, and they kind of, like, this ripple went out that we were Brett students, and so they stopped talking about what they were talking about, and we weren't really sure where to go, so we just started walking towards the room.
As soon as we came in, they told us that the chairs and anything in the front is for people of color only, unless you're disabled or a faculty member, and that the food is for people of color only, and that people of color were the only ones allowed to speak at this meeting, and then people of color who wanted to speak who weren't dark enough were told to stand down.
Many of us who were not used to being confronted by the idea that segregation was back and viewed as a good thing and all of that, were hearing things that were just beyond belief.
It seems like there was a epistemological segregation. There was a segregation that preceded the actual physical segregation that was enacted by a lot of trainings, a lot of orientations, a lot of what's called anti-racist work did a lot to segregate people according to privilege, which just, it seems like a natural flow that it would eventually end up to racial segregation being reintroduced.
I do think so. I think there's a way in which the idea is the the received wisdom in the social justice camp is what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So everything that has been is going to be reversed.
And so at the beginning, it was this big circle. So there was this big circle set out. And I assumed that, I don't know, Brett would be put in the middle with someone to interview him about his racism, and they'd have this conversation. And everything would be fine afterwards once Brett got a chance to explain what he meant by his words and where he felt the problem was. And that's not what happened at all.
Community love!
Community love!
Hi, I'm Jamil. Basically we just want to begin by clarifying that this land we are on, not ours. And that these bodies that have been working to get this shit done aren't being paid. And a lot of this labor isn't being distributed equally. And how many times in our history and Evergreen's history and everyone's history has this labor fallen on the very specific people that it's fallen on to get this done, to get this to happen?
Which is this
It also needs to be clarified that this is not it. That this is just one step, and that we will be here tomorrow in the library lobby at 1, and that we will be here every day, and that black bodies will be coming to this institution, and brown bodies and trans bodies, and all these people, and they will need our support, and they will need us to be doing this work, and we will be needing to hold that institution accountable at all given moments, at every day, at every point.
Yes.
Woo! So I'm going to get off because I'm shaking, but I want to clarify that George is claiming that he needs to leave by 5:30, so we need to make sure that we're being really concise and getting our shit said, and you can say it as emotionally, as angrily, as passionately as you need to, but we need to also make sure we're making space for the people who need to be heard, and we need to be getting it done in an effective amount of time. Is that clear?
Yes. Yes.
So what's about to happen is a few of us went into a room with George and some of the administration to come up with some really concrete, important work that he needs to be held accountable to and the institution needs to be accountable to on a timely basis. George is going to clarify the points that he's made and that he's committed to, and y'all are going to get a chance afterwards to clarify, to make any, to voice any changes that you feel need to be made, and to voice any concerns you need to happen in this space. Does that feel good to everyone?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. If at any point you have any accessibility needs, you feel you can't be heard, you feel come up to me, come up to someone, we will make that shit happen. It has to happen in this space, okay? Everyone good?
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamil. Thank you all for coming. This is a beginning. It is not an end. The work is important, critical to the future of the college.
So we're going to fast forward through George Bridges' statement because I have the email and we can get back to this later if we feel it's necessary. There's some things here that do develop into other parts of the story, but I'm just going to briefly read the introduction. I was sent this on May 24th, 2017 at 12:30 p.m., which is about a half hour before the library blockade begins, which I think is kind of interesting that George Bridges, instead of preparing for that blockade, which he had been warned about by his police chief, Stacey Brown, he's doing this bureaucratic stuff, but that's how George Bridges operates. It's always the bureaucratic level. Anyways, I don't want to get ahead of it into the interpretation part. We'll just read this opening statement. Evergreen students, on Tuesday, many of you used your voices, time, and emotional labor, get that, to tell me you do not feel safe. You demanded change and accountability right now. To those who stood up and told me how they have experienced racism on our campus, thank you for your courage. With input from many students, the following actions will be taken to address the specific concerns raised. Now, I do find it interesting that George Bridges is not allowing for, at least publicly at this point, that there might be other students who have a vested interest in other ways of acting and other ways of being represented by the administration and by these student leaders, so-called, but he skips over that and he just addresses the loudest voices in the room, which he's questioned about later by the actual legislature.
If you can postulate about what your response would have been had one of those protest groups from outside come into your office with the same intent to talk with you about change on the campus with the same
intensity,
the same voices, the same anger, the same profanity, the same, intention, demands, let's say, of change on the campus.
I know college students. I don't know other groups. I've worked tirelessly for many years with college students, classes of 800 where a quarter or a third of the class didn't like the grades they were getting. That's an interesting experience. So I feel very comfortable with college students even in tense interactions when the language is just plain rude. I don't like it. I don't like the disrespect. And I've talked to the protest leaders very firmly in private conversations about that. But if it's an outside group, I would be much more inclined to call in law enforcement right away. Again, my decisions were based on years of work with students.
But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. One of his responses is that no charges will be brought by the college against students. There's going to be a independent review board, which eventually does get put into place to review the entire situation, that he staffs with people that he's known for 20 to 30 years. He's going to institute a student code of conduct review board built of students, and he's actually going to hire and actually pay leaders of the protest to revise the student code of conduct. Again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. He also wants to institute anti-bias training for all faculty and staff, and also wants to implement a very clear sort of student-faculty evaluation process, or a student complaint of the faculty process. And then he says something about undocumented students, and he says in this email at least, I will commit to following up no later than Friday, June 2nd, with a more detailed timeline of dates by which actions will occur, who will be responsible for implementing each activity, and details about compensation offered for student work on these issues. It is imperative that we take action to dismantle systems of oppression here and further afield. I look forward to your continued input and to working to serve you. Sincerely, George S. Bridges, president of the Evergreen State College. Now, this is before the widespread viralization of these Evergreen videos happens. Furthermore, this is before the library blockade. This is before Tucker Carlson comes on the scene. This is before the wide world wakes up to what's happening at the wokest of woke places, the Evergreen State College. But now we're going to get into the superior cringe. We're going to get into the struggle session. I don't know what else to call this. Still, looking at this footage makes my skin crawl. But let's dive right into this room.
CRC front desk. Hi, this is Kat over to Evergreen Police. Hi. Hi. We've got a dog in a truck that's super, super hot parked over at the comm building, and evidently that person is at the CRC. Her name is Davis. That sound familiar to you?
She scanned in at 3 o'clock.
Okay, is it possible to page that person and have her go to her vehicle immediately where my officers are?
Yes, I can have the attendant go find her.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, bye.
Evergreen Police.
Hey, this is Melanie at the CRC front desk.
Hi.
Hi, Davis just passed me and she's on her way to her car.
Okay, all right, perfect.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. Evergreen Police.
Hi, I'm calling from the Performing Arts Scene Shop. There's someone left their dog in their car in the handicapped spot outside of our loading dock. The dog's been in there for like half an hour or so, maybe more, and the sun's on the window. I was wondering if you'd come over and maybe we can try to figure it out.
We can try. We're super, super low staff, and because of the event that happened earlier today, we're on lockdown. So.
Oh, you know what? I just okay.
Okay.
There we go. Okay. So. Okay. I messed up there.
Maybe it's a good time to take a moment.
No, yeah, we take a moment because that was the end of. I didn't realize that was the end of that.
Is that the subplot you're talking about?
Yeah, with the dog.
Okay, because I'm really curious what happens with the dog. And
I think I put it in like she came and she scanned out and she drives away, and I should put that in the video if I redo this whole thing.
We'll see if it's in there.
No, it that had happened, and the thing is, like, this program repeated the video right away, so it kind of made it seamlessly. The last little part of the video was like, yeah, she just scanned out. She just left. And that was the end of it. So the entire reason I put that in there and it kind of got messed up because the way that this thing was played, is that the police were trying to work with this dog and like this actual problem, while at the same time, the protesters had this entire view of this struggle session going on at the same time that was all about their feelings, and nobody was actually getting hurt. Nobody's actually getting maced. And the police had to do the same thing, like secure the whole building, which they were completely... If things got violent in this room that we're about to see, there was no hope at all.
Yeah.
Stacey, I think I get ahead to it. So Stacey Brown, to preface the next video, Stacey Brown is ordered basically by George Bush to show up not in uniform, which is a big no-no, because like her job is that
she was
uniform.
ordered not to be in uniform because that was going to be threatening.
It would be offensive to the students, so they want to take her down a notch, right? And that means that she's now a citizen.
Okay.
That uniform really means a lot, and I zoomed in on her face. So while George is being, and I put that in there a little bit early, George is kind of being grilled by the legislature, and Stacey's right behind him. And she is totally pissed off because she would be responsible for anything that had happened, but she had all the responsibility and no power. He had all the power and she had all the responsibility. And he was just moving all these different things around. She was totally shamed. She was ordered to, well, she was told not to bring her gun, but she ends up bringing her gun.
Wow.
So she's going to be armed.
Did he have the power to order her not to be in uniform? Did he really?
It was a gross breach of etiquette. It was from speaking with her, I never got an interview with her. She's a sweet lady. She actually took me out on a ride-along.
Oh, okay.
Which totally opened my eyes. We went down, we were in Olympia. We went to this old Olympia brewery. There's an Olympia beer there. It's abandoned. We walked around. We spent the whole day together. And I saw like all the different things she did. Because, and I don't think I get into it in the documentary, she eventually quits here because it's just such an embarrassment for her. She goes from being the chief of police. She worked her way all the way up from patrol to chief of police at a college, albeit Evergreen State College. Then she has to go all the way down to the bottom, start all the way at the bottom of the rung, and then work her way back up. She's now, I think
this was really bad for her career.
Oh, she got a bit of a settlement, which is just kind of basically a pittance. But she lost a lot of capital that she had gained in her career. And I think she's teaching now. She's a wonderful, wonderful woman. But I ended up hanging out with her and talking a lot about what she was going through during that time.
George is a slimy one. He's really slick and weaselly. And
is that your official opinion as a surveyor of souls?
No, I'm talking about his behavior. I mean, I don't know what his soul is. I don't know who he is. But I'm watching his behavior. He's refusing accountability. The pandering to the students, this whole student leader thing.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting. And it's interesting the other clips, the clip with Naima Lowe, and she's talking about Black Lives Matter and how it's insecure. She's got this like very casual, mocking condescension to anybody who doesn't agree with her worldview. 100%.
And she's got a chip on her shoulder too.
And then who was the lady who was talking about the White Lives Matter stickers?
Yeah, that's Wendy Indris. She's the vice president of student affairs.
Okay.
She'll come up later.
Well, the histrionics from both of them it was really interesting. They're both playing up the drama. Like Naima Lowe is talking about being afraid to be shot every time she walks out of her house.
Yeah, and to question that is another act of violence to her. And under no circumstances is she actually in that kind of danger at all.
Yeah, it's just a gross exaggeration.
I can see some of the criticism that I got that I've gotten over the course of the years since this has been published about like I'm jumping back and forth a little too much and the edits could be I could pace it out a little bit more, but I put those in specifically, those two clips with Naima talking about Black Lives Matter and Wendy Indris talking about Black Lives Matter because that happened in 2015.
Oh, okay.
So they had already built this totem.
So wait, which one happened in 2015? The White Lives Matter stickers?
Well, the White Lives Matter stickers and that Naima's speech.
Oh, so those were older clips.
Yeah,
Both of those were older clips.
Yeah, so
okay, that didn't register for me.
Yeah, the culture on the campus was that Black Lives Matter is the most sacred of all slogans.
Yeah, and that's what you're talking about with Brett in that clip, where you're saying, well, this was already like, this was built up. We already had this going on. So it was kind of a matter of time before it got real.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do a couple of super chats if you guys don't mind, because there's a couple questions here. Pair character doing... Oh, wow. Why does it do that? Pair character... Oh, wait. Pair character doing a shaking sign with his hand saying cool.
Sign. I don't know what that is.
Point Curation is a long time supporter of the channel. He likes to, instead of using emojis, he explains them verbally. Kush says, dogs are better than cats, but cats are more sophisticated. Happy weekend, both, and adorable kitten.
Yeah, tell Benjamin dogs are really good.
Let's not have this. There's some really nice, people are saying some really nice things about my ability to interview people.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. There's a
nice.
joke about Naima Lowe. I watch Lowe for the lols.
Yeah, that's good.
There's a lot. Actually, in Lowe's suit against the college, she complains about somebody punning on her name.
Oh, really?
As like a form of racial harassment.
Oh, gosh.
Because somebody said low down and dirty or something like that. And John Brown thanks me again. But there's, thank you very much, John Brown. That's very
nice.
Generous. But Jenny's, it was Howard Schooner. I'll put it on the screen and just read it off the screen. Cancel. Was there any culture of anti-Semitism involved in all of this that you saw? So that is a subnote. So there's this girl named Rachel Corey who I believe, I don't have all the facts. I should have thought of this beforehand to look this up, but she goes to Evergreen. She's already been, you see footage of her being kind of a social justice activist, kind of like a Greta wannabe or like a proto Greta, not a wannabe, because this is back in 2000.
What was her name again?
Rachel Corey.
Okay.
She goes to the Evergreen State College. She studies closely under one man named Peter Boehmer, who's Jewish, but also very radical and very anti-Zionist. And after Evergreen, she goes to Israel and she protests apartheid. And again, a lot of people have a lot of opinions on the Israel thing. I have different views, that don't track with like you're left. And so you think this, you're right. So you think that, because I think it's a total mess. But it is the case that these kids get radicalized and then they go and they do stupid shit. And what she did was she was protesting apartheid, and there was a bulldozer. Somebody was bulldozing a settlement, and he didn't see her. From what I recall, he didn't see her, and she gets run over and she gets killed.
No, wow.
So she becomes a martyr for the Palestinian or the anti-Zionist cause. She's connected to Evergreen. So that's a part of Evergreen history, and Evergreen students and some faculty have been agitating to divest from Israel, from like CAT, like CAT, like the bulldozer, like any sort of. So they want
Israeli company.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know exactly all the money ties, but Evergreen has this, the fund. All these colleges have this big super fund, and even though they charge students tons of money, they always have this big fund. Some of that fund has dealings with Israel.
That's really surprising. You know what? I was surprised to find that recently. Like, colleges, it costs so much. You're mortgaging your future when you get a college education now. How is there any sense in any of the funding going anywhere but straight to your education?
Well, it's not just that. It's just that it's not just that. It's also that they're also asking money from the government and getting money from the government while they're making money at the same time and taking money from states.
And then being able to hand it to what?
It's just like, it's just totally crazy. So with regard to anti-Semitism, so-called, at the Evergreen State College, it doesn't map on, the anti-Semitism stuff does not map onto this black-white racialism thing, because most Jews at the Evergreen State College and in America are Ashkenazi, which are basically European stock, and they're basically white. They do not count, and it's more than their skin color. It's because they're actually very productive, high capacity.
So they don't count as a person of color.
They don't count as the downtrodden because they're privileged, because they're successful.
Right. So they end up getting lumped into the white
so
thing.
They're basically white. They're part of white supremacy. So you have that undercurrent.
So that's there, but it's not.
It's not explicitly anti-Semitic, but there are. But then you have some Jewish professors who are very sensitive about any sort of, that's the whole problem. Like, if you criticize Zionism, then you're basically an anti-Semite, which is just a part of the whole problem of like switching language and not being able to like dissect like the nuances of power struggle, because it's like you're either with us or against us all the way down, so there's that going on too.
Oh,
So,
you missed Jenny's, I think.
and Jenny, George reminds me of Joe Biden. Put this on the screen, go back over here. George reminds me of Joe Biden, doing enough to keep them at bay, but not really doing anything to address anything, just trying to hold on to power.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pandering.
when Biden got elected, I'm like, here we go. This is
Really?
America
He
under
reminded
George.
you of him too?
Yes, this is America under George.
It's just
George
it's
Bridges.
the politician.
So, sorry about that previous play. Let's go to episode 6. And we'll float over here. This stuff gets really intense. So everybody take a
This
deep
is
breath.
the struggle session.
This is the shit.
I'm gonna get my popcorn back out.
Yeah, get your popcorn. Everybody arm yourself with some popcorn. Here we go.
What are you doing to protect people who you don't even want here in the first place? That's what college is for. You know that's what college is for. Higher education was not for black and brown people.
It's difficult all the time to kind of navigate your way around institutions that are not created for you. And people felt that even more, I think, in the political climate.
The names may have changed. Racists now call themselves racialists. White supremacists now call themselves white nationalists. The paranoid fringe now calls itself alt-right. But the hate burns just as bright. And this isn't just about one election. It's about who we are as a nation. It's about the kind of example we want to set for our children and our grandchildren. Next time you see Trump on TV, think about all the children listening across America. You know, kids hear a lot more than we think.
When you walk down the hallways and you see Donald Trump's face plastered everywhere, and a direct salute to white supremacy, what about this environment does empower racists who don't even go here to attack black students? I feel like it needs to go beyond just trainings and meetings and be actively talked about. Intersectionality needs to be at the forefront of this university.
I'm grateful that you are raising the issues, that you are holding us accountable, and that you are expressing how you feel about being here. And I mean that. It's absolutely critical that you have that voice, and I want to affirm the fact that students are raising their voices and expressing their frustrations, their anger about the lived experience they have here on this campus. It must change. And I will commit all that I can to making it change. Ready to take a few questions and constructive solutions to how we will proceed.
Okay, I'm curious specifically why Brett hasn't been fired, and I understand that I'm wrong, but it's the way that I understand tenure and being a part of a union and stuff, those apply in so much as you don't harass. You would be fired for sexual harassment, for example. I'm curious why that doesn't seem to apply for racial harassment or for going against the policies of the school. If he hasn't gone against the policy of the school, I'm curious why we don't have a policy against racially harassing faculty and students.
So I will not comment on any faculty member's status and how the college has responded to them. It's inappropriate, it's unlawful.
I am really angry about this situation. I am really angry about those emails. And I am really angry at the deans, and the Brett, and the others, how infuriated I am about this. And it has to stop. Now it's not stopping. So we gotta do more.
So, that stated, I can tell you that we discussed the process by which complaints against faculty and staff are made. We discussed about making that process far more transparent.
I have a proposed solution for something that you can do right now, and that is to disavow white supremacy. You make promises, at the institution you make promises, but this is an institution on first indigenous land. Every single thing about this institution is a testament to white supremacy. So if we don't actively disavow about, as a president, there's not things you can't, there's a lot of things you can't do, but something that you can do as the figurehead of the school is actively lead, disavowing and saying that that's not there. There's nothing that you can say to console us, to make us feel safer if this place is welcome and embracing the people who want us dead.
Right.
Thank you. And I will say right now, I'm very concerned that some of you have expressed the fact that you have been threatened for even being here, for articulating these views, and I will do everything in my power to ensure that you're safe.
So, considering that you sent out an email inviting all of the wicked violence of whiteness to once again violate us, hurt us, damage black bodies in whichever way they want to, what are you doing right now to protect us?
I'm listening to you. I'm taking your recommendations. I'm working with you.
That's not how you protect somebody that's in danger. That's not what you do. Because guess what? What y'all do when white people are in danger is y'all call Olympia Police Department to campus. That's what y'all do.
Right.
So the fact that you sent out an email inviting us to once again be put in danger and signed your signature on the end, what are you going to do? Right now, I don't care about a plan. I'm talking about action. Because if it was your kids, you would be doing hell and high water for them.
What I will do the moment I walk out of this room is I will go to work on this project. I will go to work on ensuring that our police, our staff, our faculty are as well trained and as anti-black, anti-biased. I will commit to dealing with my own shit, my own racism.
Okay.
Well, no one white was allowed to speak, and there were two people of color in Brett's class, in that class, who tried to speak, both defending him and trying to just say, like, you really need to hear what he has to say, because if you understood, then you totally get it. One was told that her skin was too light and that she needed to listen to people of darker colored skin because I guess I don't really understand that argument.
At least I want to have a chance that people who are like tell you why we think it's not racism, because like as I know, like
read the email
for a lot like diversities in the class, so I feel like you should at least one time let him like talk.
So as a person, as people of color, we have to recognize that like we're not black and we do not know the black experience, and so we can't really. We have to recognize that also as people of color, we are also anti-black, and we can't speak to anti-black people because they're black and white.
She was actually talking about the Chinese Cultural Revolution, which she knows a lot about, and she was pointing out some similarities there. And then another half-black student in our class tried to speak, and she was told that she didn't understand. And at one point she yells out, "I'm not oppressed," and people are like, "Oh, you don't understand." And man, it's just so silly, because if you're validating everyone's opinion as like the truth, then you can't discount voices who don't fit in with that. But I guess that doesn't matter.
You were targeted. That's all you need to know. Your brown skin, people who look like you were targeted. They don't give a fuck about you. This morning and she didn't want to. I know, but I'm letting you know. They not on your side. Shit. Community love. Community love. Get back. I'm just letting you know. They gonna come shooting at you too. You're not safe. Oh my God! Shut the fuck up or something. No. Bitch, we fighting for you. Like, come on. You're not. No. And everybody's like, why don't you speak up? Because somebody keeps interrupting this man. I'm still trying to wait for him to answer the question whether it's bullshit or not. I want to hear what he has to say. So he can sit your ass down. Just turn, y'all. You know. These are the lost ones. The lost ones are rising. Pay no attention. Thank you, white. No way. I'm over it.
We're not simpletons. We're adults.
Right.
And so I'm telling you, you're speaking to your ancestor. All right? We've been here before you. We built these cities.
Right.
We've had civilization way before you ever had.
Right.
Coming out your caves, okay? So let's be clear. What should the repercussions be for you if you don't follow through?
Impeachment.
My commitment.
Oh, okay. We all know that having staff and faculty that look like us is how we succeed. Honestly, if it was not for Tyrone over there, I would not be here.
That's so real. That's so fucking real.
So, what are you doing, and what is Stacy doing to make our police force and our staff and our faculty and everyone else that we see, not just the people we have classroom time with, but our advisors, our counselors, the health center, anyone. Can y'all stop talking while she's and how do we know that we can go to them?
One of my top priorities is increasing faculty of color, increasing staff of color, and let me finish. This last year we hired 14 new faculty members. Of those, 5
14. That's nothing to be.
That's who we hired.
What about the 5? Then 5 of the what?
5 of color, and then of the which is.
That's not the majority. Why are you bragging like that's the majority?
I know it's a higher percentage.
Your microaggression with your hands and your posture, please. Get your hands down, George. Put your hands down.
Watch yourself.
That's not appropriate. You gotta put your hands down. You know you gotta put your hands down.
Yes, Ike! Yes, Ike!
Wait, Stacy, come to the front! Why are you hiding?
Can you address her with questions?
We did not know what the circumstances were. There was 2 officers that were working, myself and another officer, and we responded to the area to see if that was actually what was going on. The information that we had was that this person was in danger and were trapped and were not able to leave the room. So when we got there, there was a very large number of students that were there.
Outside! A different building.
You were not by the classroom.
Y'all, we know what happened. They're just saying some bullshit. Let them say the bullshit and then we'll call it out.
Well, if you already have your mind made up.
Shut up! We're not talking to you. Shut the fuck up.
We were there.
You weren't there. We've been up since 10 o'clock.
So at the time, we responded with the information that we had. A lot of times in law enforcement, we don't have all the information when somebody calls 911 or when somebody calls us. So we respond and we ask people for what's going on, and we did try that. The
So
students
you don't
did not want to
so
talk
you
back
act
to
on
us.
partial
They didn't want to
information?
answer questions. Officer Odell did try going through the crowd so that he could reach, find out.
Continue. I'm sorry. I'm just reacting.
I ended up pulling him back out so that we could try to figure out and talk to students about what happened. The students were not responding to us or would not tell us what was going on. And so at that point, we did not know if we had a faculty member that was being trapped or not being allowed to leave a room. And that's what our concern was.
I'm going to die in this room. Questions?
Okay, now that I have you. When you first got this job, didn't you say that you were going to try to make a policy for police services to communicate with students and make a community? So how come Officer Odell was throwing students out of the way and shoving them and pushing them out of the way to get to only PLC students? Right. What was up with that? He didn't even try to stop and ask, hey, what's going on here? Why is there something going on? He just proceeded to run towards us like he was in fucking football and push us out the way.
And we weren't by the classroom, by the way. We were walking away from Sim. We were downstairs, 2 floors down from where the scene of the crime was.
I did pull him back because...
You had to pull him back because he was out of control.
Wow.
When you first got this job, didn't you say that you were going to try to make a policy for police services to communicate with students and make a community? So how come Officer Odell was throwing students out of the way and shoving them and pushing them out of the way to get to only PLC students? What was up with that? He didn't even try to stop
and asked, hey, what's going on here? Why is there so many people? He just proceeded to run towards us like he was in fucking football and push us out the way. And yeah, he said, I'm here. We were walking away. Yeah, he threatened to use pepper spray on us.
I did. I did pull him back because
You had to pull him back?
I did.
He was out of
Wow.
So the investigation that's happening, we did it. Did we do it? Is it done? Did we do it? I think we did it.
The question that somebody asked was why we responded to Brett. We would respond to anybody. It doesn't matter.
But you did it! You did not! Everybody you can call and no one would answer our phone call. You're supposed to make community. You're supposed to be able to like make community for us. You said that when you got hired. So why the fuck are you in that police fucking process? Why would you not answer our phone calls? But you would answer for everybody, but you would answer for not nobody.
I want to remind y'all that this does not have to be a question and answering session because they're not in charge.
Hey, I have a question. If we put Brett in so much danger, why is he here?
My answer, Brett?
No!
Hey y'all.
What the fuck are you talking like that for?
Meeting?
They think a riot's about to happen.
You're not gonna be done. You feel stressed? You feel fucking pressure? That's all day, every day. Hey! I can't back the bullshit. I have a fucking right to live. I come to school. You do this bullshit, you're just gonna adjourn it? Cause what, you can't? How is one of us gotta stay here? This is my skin color. I can't adjourn this shit. Amen. That man poured his fucking soul out. And you're still here. Look, you called for a man who was being harassed or threatened. Why the fuck is he here? Please, explain.
And what gets me is there was, Shamir could just blatantly ask you what you could do to protect students, and you were ready. No, you sat here and you disregarded that all of us came here and took a risk to come here and be in this room with the way everybody's acting on campus, but you were ready to adjourn it for one white professor. Right? How you gonna protect us right now? That's the question right now.
I interrupted the meeting because I just want to have a conversation. I wasn't going to...
You're told policing. What you're speaking is anti-black violence code and speech right now. This is exactly what we've been fighting against. Because something gets uncomfortable for just a second. You want to adjourn the meeting. You said it needs to be done by 5:30. It's 5. We still have 30 minutes and we want to talk. We have a lot of things to say. Like, first off, why is police services trying to change their name to the police department on campus?
Bring Brett up!
Did we kidnap you?
Bring Brett up!
Because we were... Yeah, come on.
Bring Brett up!
Your name is Brett!
Bring Brett up! Bring Brett up! Bring Brett up!
Guys, what's going on? White people! White people, talk to your man!
All these people of color, if you have not seen the emails that this man sends out, he loves attention. He loves to talk. So I just want to be really...
You got an article now? He sent it out. You got articles about it now. What is your attention?
They both want to call me to task, they want me to come to the podium so that they can ridicule me, but when I say, hey, I'm ready to go to the podium, they're like, no, don't let him go to the podium, right? So that tension between we want you in our sights if we're in control, but we don't want you in a position to change what people understand, so we're going to shut you down.
What does that say about what they're actually doing, whether they're aware of it or not?
It's very simple. They are on a mission. They know what they're trying to accomplish, and they feel entitled to do anything in service of that goal. And so they want the benefit of every doubt. They want each rule to be active when it serves them and deactivated when it harms them. And so the point is, there's no consistency to this. There's no conservation principle. There's no fundamental thinking. It is simply, we know we have the right to, for example, remove police from the campus. That means anything that allows us to push in that direction is justified, and anything that might marshal in the other direction is illegitimate. And it's that simple. That's
and
the
at the same time that they do that and say that, they're screaming to an authority figure, George Bridges, how unsafe they feel. And they want him to make sure that they're safe.
Well, I mean, of course, if they're unsafe, then that gives them special rights to demand.
So it doesn't matter that they're shoving away what's protecting them.
There is, I saw,
at the same time,
no, collectively, individuals are different, but collectively I saw no ability to track a logical argument and follow it through to its conclusions. What I saw was people wanting to isolate each point, evaluate whether it worked in their direction, and then decide what they thought about that fact or that idea based on whether it helped or hurt them, not based on whether or not it was true.
Community love! Community love! Community love! I'll be damned if I let y'all center whiteness again. Right. Because I'm still wondering why when white students are in danger, you can call the police to come and help them. When white faculty is in danger, you can call motherfucking backup for them. That's crazy, huh? But how many black and brown students have stood up and told you we were in danger, and your ass is still standing over there, and you ain't got shit to say? You don't got shit to say. Police chief, you don't got shit to say. Hello, Ken, how you doing today? You don't got shit to say. Come on, now. And let me remind y'all, that's how whiteness works. Whiteness is the most violent fucking system to ever breathe. Right. It's not an accident. That shit is systematic as fuck. So while we sitting up in here acting like this conversation is gonna change shit, y'all know what changes shit? Action. That's why the fuck we in this room.
Listening sky, let us march on till victory is won.
I would like for folks to take some time to look at this image and look at the two different realities that these students face at the same place. Should put into perspective the direction that we're going to go this afternoon. And my grandfather and my great-grandfather that I just mentioned are from St. Croix. And if you don't know where St. Croix is a part of the Caribbean. And it is actually a U.S. territory. But it was one of the major ports or spots when the slave trade happened that black folks were dropped off. And there's been many efforts throughout history across the world for revolts. But in 1848, on the island of St. Croix, through education, through organization, and tired of waiting for change to happen, they forcefully took the island back. And they were led by the queens of the island.
Sounds like a preacher. No, everybody's not. What is this?
I'll tell you in just a second. It was a palate cleanser because I felt so filthy after watching all that over and over and over again. I guess we can talk over it because it's steps.
Palate cleanser?
Yeah, this is just a palate cleanser. And then Bijou. There's a black and a white duck.
They get along pretty well.
Yeah, something ate them.
Oh.
I think it was a raccoon. So you have any questions?
I keep thinking of the book Animal Farm.
Where are you guys going?
No, it's interesting to listen to George trying to pander even harder, trying to talk in a way that'll sound, hip to the kids. Like he's, he starts saying the word shit.
Yeah. Y'all. I'll fix my shit.
Yeah.
I'll fix my shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cringy.
Yeah.
It's painful.
Yeah.
How bad this is.
There's a couple little details in there. I should have been taking notes, but there's a black somebody from admissions.
Okay.
They just pull this one black administrator, a bureaucrat, in. He's from admissions. He shows up in the next day's footage.
Okay.
And he's purely there as a token.
Oh, okay. Like
POC.
we hired someone.
Token POC, yeah. And so he's sitting there and he spends that entire, I don't know, it's 2 or 3 or 4 hours absorbing all that stuff. It bursts out of him the next day. I feel terrible for the guy.
Oh.
Like he actually, I found some footage of him just going ape shit.
In what way?
We'll get to it later in the
Okay.
thing.
Okay.
Like, it's really embarrassing for him. I felt really bad for him, but like he absorbed all that stuff, and his whole job was to, as admissions, to get these kids in here. So he's feeling responsible. He brought these kids in here. His task is to get this enrollment up. They say explicitly, and Brett's really on point here. Because if you try to analyze it one statement at a time, they're not thinking critically. They're like, wait, why would you show up for a black or for a white professor? But then when we tell you to come here, you won't come. It's like, well, but they were in danger. You're not saying you're in danger. You're telling me to come and like submit to you. That's a totally different thing. But everything is completely.
But they're in danger constantly because of their skin. They can't. What do you say? We can't adjourn this skin color.
And that, again, Naima Lowe and the entire staff and faculty with all these anti-racist trainings are constantly saying how black people are so in danger.
Yeah, they've really promoted this way of thinking, and these young people have internalized that.
And that's what I thought. I thought it was so incriminating, and nothing ever happened. Actually, Felix Brathith, who's that preacher guy, the really stupid guy, he just keeps on like hitting every branch on the failing upward tree. He just goes from one college to another and another. There's no consequences for this guy. 80 days before this protest, he's talking about, and this is the joke, the queens of the island, which is Jamil and Shamika and like all the black women in that game.
That's not really the queens.
I'm saying
okay.
The queens of the island rose up and overthrow their oppressors. Okay.
Yeah.
What happened in all of those different slave revolts in the Caribbean? The only ones that actually led to successful societies were the ones that made peace with the so-called colonizers. Saint Martinique, the ones like who accepted French rule, accepted or adopted so-called colonial patterns of behavior, which is this organization, education, running water, all that infrastructure. Tons of those islands that revolted, and of course you can make an argument, and I wouldn't disagree with the argument that there was an agitation and nobody was listening to these people. These people were definitely oppressed, but every time those people were oppressed and decimated those people who were unjustly enslaving them, they ended up in worse conditions than under colonial rule. Haiti is an example. All these different islands, except the ones that made peace. And Felix is putting and pushing, and Shamerica is the one that's singing. It's hard to tell. She's in two different modes. And when she's like, the whiteness is the most violent fucking system to ever breathe. It's a different woman, same kind of form. She's singing this like, we're gonna change the world. Yeah, boys and girls, we're gonna change the world. And they're all doing that thing. She is indoctrinated to be a change agent. Felix literally tells her to stage an uprising, and she does it. And he gets zero responsibility. I don't think he's capable of understanding what he did because he's an idiot. And this is like in my interview with Eli Steele, I spent a lot of time on all the people have watched. Eli Steele is the son of Shelby Steele. You guys can go through my back catalog and listen to it. It's very important. What he just talks about the dynamic of the black and white racism stuff. The white guilt and the black power feed on each other and create this engine of just this poisonous engine of power. And he says that he says that Ibram X. Kendi is one of the most dangerous people. Stupid people are really dangerous because they don't see. Smart people see all this nuance and then they can't act. Stupid people don't see any nuance and they just act. And Felix, Felix is just like, he's empowered by all the administrators to do this.
And beyond all the racial dynamics, the thing that keeps standing out to me is this breakdown in the social hierarchy. And that's really, it's really interesting. It's like, when a parent is afraid of their child because they're intimidated by the kind of tantrum that their child might throw. This reminds me of that same sort of thing. Like the children are running the family, and in this case, it's all of the adults should know that what they're doing is going to exacerbate the problem, but they're looking at short-term solutions, like let's just placate this.
Yeah.
But they should be fully aware that that's not going to lead to success.
And furthermore, and beyond that, like, if you do the numbers, at some point I crunched the numbers, and you take everybody in that room, and it's less than 1% of the Evergreen population, staff administrators included, that is agitating and doing this. And George sides with them and throws the entire institution, everybody's like the value of that degree inverted.
Yeah.
Like the value that he spent for that virtue signal, he ruined countless diplomas. He just trashed Evergreen. All the people who just wanted to get through class, learn some skills and move on are not represented at all.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about them. He cares about this equity stuff.
Yeah.
It's a terrible sin. It's a terrible thing. This man has incited, like, very few people like incite it's not hatred, but like a desire for vengeance in some way, because he completely was never accountable. He served out his entire term.
He sold out the students.
He sold out the entire institution, and he's getting paid $300,000 a year for 5 years. And then he ends up teaching at the college afterwards.
Oh wow!
It's just so poison, and there's no justice, and there's no peace either. So you get the worst of both worlds. So, let's go through some talking things, and that was a long episode. I don't know how you guys are feeling. I don't see any. I think there was some. What's it called? Super chats. But they're not showing up in my thing. They're not showing up in my thing.
Yeah, I think they are.
I have to go all the way down here. Anyway, so.
Go back up to super chats again. I think they were there.
I didn't see it. Did they reorganize it? Because it was Jenny. Unless Jenny, I'm just
after that one.
Jenny.
See right there?
Yeah. Okay.
Push-ups.
So Jenny.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Where's the interview with you and Brett on the couch? I filmed that interview. Brett Weinstein's lived in Portland for a while. He doesn't live in Portland anymore, and he invited me over, and we had dinner, and I interviewed him for this
Your
project.
beard was so dark.
Oh, look at that. Well, the lighting was a lot darker too in that. Every interview, Odette is the one, she ends up in the PBS documentary. PBS does a very short documentary on this situation, like 4 years later. And she's one of the students who was Brett's student, who was a POC. And so her opinion was given weight. And she was just like, I just want to learn science. And they were actually, in that interview, she was saying that the students were barring people of color, so-called, from entering the science building. They were actively stopping students from getting an education. And the whole rhetoric about these, Rashida Love, earlier in that 6th episode, she says, how are they supposed to navigate these systems that weren't built for us, that actively exclude us? It's like, wait, do you understand what you're saying? Black people can't learn. That's basically what you're saying. Black people can't be academic. And that is reflected in the way that black people treat other black people who want to learn. And there's, I interviewed Coleman Hughes before he became Coleman Hughes. And he spoke a lot about how he was inculcated, or he was being inculcated in public schools with this anti-white perspective, or any education is actually anti-black. And there's this persistent culture within African American students and culture that education is racist. And you have to downplay that. And anybody who starts to get erudite is actually torn down by the community.
Well, what's interesting is I went to a school in a poor area.
Yeah.
And it was minority white. I never associated this with race. I still don't know if I do. I think it may be more of a class thing. I'm not sure. But there was a real celebration of the underachiever. And you weren't supposed to be smart. You weren't supposed to try hard. And that was it's really, really apparent.
You know, there's this trope that we've grown out of as, our culture, popular culture, like Revenge of the Nerds. So like nerds are put down, but jocks are put up. But in both the nerd and the jock is this sense of achievement. They're just trying to go in different directions of achievement. Did you see, like, in the lack of achievement or counter-achievement culture, if I can make a very awkward phrase, was there like some sort of like, you get good at something?
Being in a gang. The gangs were really...
So it's like social hierarchy was praised.
Let's
being
see.
a badass.
Being a badass. Being tough. Yeah. Being not... Yeah. Just kind of this general FU to authority. Yeah. I guess. Yeah.
And then that turns into complaining about authority because you're not getting the resources that you need, and your water's trash and stuff like that. One more super chat, sir. I'm going back and forth, and then I think we can do one more episode and then call it good. This is a pretty long.
That's it for today.
Video. So Jenny says, watching this again, I hear a lot of language socialists use. Do you know if any of them were? That's a trick question because I don't know if they could formulate a political philosophy. I don't see any of them actually formulating political philosophy. So in this instance, they are using those terms, as Brett says, to get their way.
I really hear Bridges doing it as well. I mean, he's using all the catchphrases.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, and this is where our analysis picks up. I don't know to what degree you've gone down the path. I know you have, but I don't know to what degree you've gone down the path of analyzing where the social justice stuff comes from, where the woke stuff comes from. I speak frequently with James Lindsay, who has an ideology, and I speak with a lot of people who have a lot of different analysis of this. I like Jacques Ellul's critique of the bureaucratic state, which is just this apparatus that is chasing efficiency, and how all of this socialist stuff and the social Marxist stuff, it plugs right into we're gonna reduce everybody into these little widgets as much as possible. We're gonna deracinate them from their intimate connections and from their family lineages and put them into these categories, and that's the most efficient way to control and to run these institutions. I think George Bridges, ultimately, if he had, it's like a Voldemort thing. He does have a soul, of course, and stuff, but he, in all of his behavior that I've seen, he's the perfect fruit of the bureaucratic state, the weak man who shifts accountability, who accepts all accountability and no responsibility constantly, who will give you all of your desires, he'll give you all the free pizza you want, and he'll not do anything directly illegal, but he'll like make overtures towards like total control and stuff. And somehow he just gets away with the whole thing because he's very useful to everybody he walks in the room with. His main function, all college presidents' main function is fundraising. He was very good at ingratiating himself with the Democratic state legislature. The only reason that Evergreen exists, in my opinion, is there two master's program, one which is Masters of Teaching, MIT, and one is the Masters of Public Administration. So what Evergreen does is it ensures that Democrats have increasingly leftist, increasingly radical teachers and arms of the bureaucratic state. It totally serves the Democratic legislature.
Just keeps pushing out.
Yeah, it keeps on pushing out more and more of the same.
Wow, that's bleak.
That's Washington. We can get into the Office of Equity. which is a different series. But anyhow, that's Karen Davis. And we have one more video. So that was 6. So we're on 7 now. I have to. Wait.
Of 9?
7 of 24.
Oh, wow.
Oh, you didn't know?
No.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
You didn't know?
Okay, woo. This is going to be a long road.
Oh, I thought I told you there was 24 of these episodes.
I don't know why I thought there were 9.
You thought there were 9. Oh, I'm so sorry, my sweet summer child. Okay. All right, so this is, let me just make sure. So we did 5, 6, and then 7.
Yeah.
The people of color in this room are afraid for their lives. Okay? We are frightened. Every moment of every day, I know that I am black and that it matters. I am a black woman before my name is Sarah Jackson. I am a black woman before I'm a student. I'm a black woman before I am a citizen of the United States of America.
This is what I'm talking about.
I can't tell you how fast my heart is beating right now. I'm shaking in my boots. Because I'm worried that something might happen and the cops might be called, and you know who's gonna go to jail? I am.
Today, I'm sorry, one little sub note. She is not a student of the Evergreen State College. The students blasted this all on Facebook, and she's just like
else?
some random Olympian who comes to show up to support the students in their struggle session.
Oh, wow.
And she's afraid for her life because if anybody gets arrested, it's going to be her. Oh, somebody knows okay. So, sorry. Let's go back.
The New York Times published the print edition of the 1619 Project. The name marks this month's 400th anniversary of the arrival of the first enslaved people brought from Africa to the then Virginia colony. The Times says the project aims to reframe the country's history, understanding 1619 as our true founding, and placing the consequences of slavery and the contributions of Black Americans at the very center of the story we tell ourselves about who we are.
It's not about blame. I'm not asking you to feel ashamed, okay? The thing is that my ancestors were slaves and your ancestors were not. Your ancestors came here of free choice and decided to bring along my people of not of their own free will to work and build this country, okay? And so I'm just letting you know that slavery still has repercussions in society today, and that is what we're here about. Those repercussions. It doesn't go away. It's not over.
A student told me that you're a white supremacist. I'm assuming that students have said lots of things about me. I don't believe I am. I'm
You
a
don't
white
believe
person.
you are, but you accept that you might be.
No. Well, it depends on what you mean by a white supremacist. What does that mean? I'm a white person in a position of privilege.
Okay. I guess that's part of the confusion for me is the precision of language seems to be lost in a lot of this conversation.
It is.
On that note, why is it all these black women and femmes doing all this emotional labor in this space? These white-ass faculty members need to be holding him and all these people accountable. We don't need to be doing all things.
Speak up! If you my ally, speak up. If you in the meeting, speak up. Stop showing your face and do some shit right now.
Am I confused about who's getting paid? Am I confused? Oh, do some shit.
Y'all keep coming to the meetings.
I have to hold faculty and staff accountable for your safety.
You want me to tell you what I remember?
Yeah, what you remember, the first thing.
Sure.
And maybe if there was a feeling before that day.
Well, there very definitely was a feeling before that day. The mood on campus surrounding issues of what's wrongly called equity had been increasing in pressure quite precipitously over the year prior to that day.
Even with the important gains achieved by the nation's civil rights movement over many years, our country continues to struggle profoundly with issues of race and racism, social and economic inequality, and repeated and glaring instances of injustice. At this moment in our history, we have a rare and a critical opportunity to address these issues. I want you to know that this important work begins today. It begins now. Students, starting this afternoon, you will attend a set of required orientation sessions. Go to them. As you know, there are a few requirements at Evergreen. Attending these sessions is one of them.
I know typically when you hear just diversity, that all people are running for the hills because they're like, well, it's gonna hurt, I don't wanna do this, it's too complicated, people might start crying, it's very emotional. And it is emotional, right? And there's a reason for that. And so what we're asking is that you participate in that emotion. And while you're here at Evergreen, not only be here to do book learning, but also to learn how to grow as a person. And this is a piece of that learning to grow as a person. So we really want you to consider intersectionality. We have a definition up here for you to think about people in the ways in which they embody oppressive institutions and the ways that they don't, right? So racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, xenophobia, classism are all interconnected, and you can't really be separated from one another. And so it's important to think about all of these things within our own within ourselves so that we can look at each other as whole people and not just focus in on that one area.
It is very easy as a country, I think, for folks to want us to go forward and to think that we are not these people that had these old ideas about race and about issues of difference. It's wishful thinking, and I think that we have evolved a lot as a society, but we still have these issues that we need to deal with. And they're very deep issues. And because we keep sort of averting our gaze, those issues remain sort of entrenched in who we are because we're afraid to look at them because they're very scary and they're very kind of terrible. I think a lot of us think of the KKK as a thing of the past, and that has nothing to do with who we are, and it really still has everything to do with who we are as a country. So as hopeful to me as it is to see us changing as a nation, I also think about how painful it must be for people to have to face those individuals who are still trying really hard to say, no, we should not be changing as a nation.
By saying, I don't see race, I'm erasing your difference from me, from my white middle-class background, and saying that, that shouldn't matter, that, everything is going to be compared against this white middle class normality or default.
Anything else about the core value, what people are trying to say when they say this? Yes?
I don't want to talk about racism.
Yes, right? Because that's difficult. It's way easier to be like, I don't see race, because then you don't have to worry about it. Whereas if you say, I do see race, now that's a whole nother conversation that you may or may not feel like having that day.
I don't value you.
Yes, I don't value you. A lot of people, their race is really important to them. It's a really important marker of their identity. And for you to just be like, that doesn't exist, you're kind of telling them they don't exist in some ways.
Black power! Black power! Black power!
I think that's where that difference between the capacity to have a prejudice against someone and also versus the capacity to have a power over them, right? We can all be prejudiced based on our predisposition to believe something, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have power culturally to do anything about it, right? So for example, the concept of reverse racism. I can be prejudiced against white people all day long, right? I know for a fact that I have prejudices, but my ability to assert power based on my social position is really limited. And so I think that's a distinction that becomes important for us all to make.
Good afternoon. Thank you for attending our forum, Coming Together, a Call for Action. We have three major goals for today's forum. The first is to continue to learn about the perceptions and experiences of our students, faculty, and staff of color. The second is to create and establish a series of action items that will ensure the Evergreen campus is an environment that is welcoming, safe, and supportive of traditionally underrepresented people. And the third is to inspire every member of the Evergreen community to participate in the programs and activities that we develop in an effort to achieve the campus climate and environment that we all seek.
I'd like to read a list of core tenets developed by a group of anti-racist educators who were on a panel at the Race and Pedagogy Conference in Tacoma last year. The panelists included Dr. Heather Bruce, Dr. Robin DiAngelo, Dr. Cheryl Matias, Dr. Gita Swani, and doctoral student Amy Thurber. In the workshop, they affirmed the wide range of ways these core tenets can be disseminated given educators' distinct positionality and intersections of identity and institutional statuses. Racism exists today in both traditional and modern forms. Racism is an institutionalized, multi-layered, multi-level system that distributes unequal power and resources between white people and people of color as socially identified, and disproportionately benefits whites. All members of society are socialized to participate in the system of racism, albeit within varied social locations. All white people benefit from racism, regardless of intentions. No one chose to be socialized into racism, so no one is quote unquote bad, but no one is neutral. To not act against racism is to support racism. Racism must be continually identified, analyzed, and challenged. No one is ever done. The question is not, did racism take place, but rather, how did racism manifest in that situation? The racial status quo is comfortable for most whites. Therefore, anything that maintains white comfort is suspect. The racially oppressed have a more intimate insight via experiential knowledge of the system of race than their racial oppressors. However, white professors will be seen as having more legitimacy. Thus, positionality must be intentionally engaged. Resistance is a predictable reaction to anti-racist education and must be explicitly and strategically addressed.
This I believe. I believe Evergreen can.
Okay. I got it. Okay. One note. So this is directly from Robin DiAngelo, who gets it from Paul Freire. Jenny's getting inky with it. Just did a super chat. Thank you very much. About talking about the progression of these ideas. And you're going to have to follow James Lindsay and the Counter Warcraft. The stuff that he does it with New Discourses and Helen Prokos. They've charted the procession of these ideas. But everything that Aisha just regurgitates in this meeting, and this is the meeting in 2015, and this is just a staff and faculty meeting to confront all this racist stuff. And I think I get into it. Maybe we can talk about it afterwards if I don't. They are intentionally designed to create a cult. You cannot disagree whatsoever. And they do this thing. It's so cringy. Called This I Believe. So you're going to watch everybody at this little thing says this I believe statements. And it goes back to that canoe meeting. Like, don't doubt. Like, how can I believe in these things? How can I lean into this work? We're going to play the believing game. So it's intentionally made to create a cult.
That's exactly why I wouldn't sign the pledge.
This is how we met. This is exactly how we got on this couch right now.
Yeah.
This same bullshit, man.
And
so you can't say it's all bad. I mean, it might destroy civilization, but some people might be riding the Titanic down to the sea floor.
I hope you don't sink while I'm laying on a door.
Okay. No, I'll do that if you need.
Okay, well.
Anyways, but you wouldn't sign the pledge. So your
same
origin,
kind of thing. I mean, this is the same. It was very culty.
Yeah. And you have to. And like, there's no like, what about this? What about that?
Nope.
Yeah. So sorry about that aside. Let's get back to the show. Oh, shoot.
He says, this I believe.
All right. And this is Tom Wollendorf. Can I tell you one thing about Tom Wollendorf? His dad's neighbor. So his dad's pretty rich. This guy's dad's pretty rich up in Seattle.
Okay.
And his neighbor is also pretty rich and saw all these films, knows Tom's dad. Tom's dad is totally ashamed of him. And his neighbor like contacted me and said, hey, you want to take a plane ride? Like, this is like really early on in YouTube. I'm like, that's kind of weird. Is he going to throw me out of the plane? But I'm like, well, I guess I'll just go on a plane ride. He took me on a plane ride around. He's got this little private plane and stuff. So Tom is old money.
Is he a faculty member?
He's the guy who was saying in the earlier episodes, like, my job is to teach. Like, when I walk into the room, is it my privilege? Yeah. And he's like this super weak man trying to teach other men to be weak.
Yeah,
that's Tom's thing. And I totally messed that up.
Lost him.
There he is. So here we go. This is what they believe.
This I believe. I believe Evergreen can create a more vibrant community of anti-racist activists on our staff and faculty and among our students, if we break our 45-year pattern of occasionally turning toward these issues briefly with deep but short-run commitment that fades, fades, and fades. Our words of action disappearing into the background as we return to business as usual. Breaking this cycle will take sustained and stubborn leadership from our administration and at least a doubling of our staff and faculty of color. This I do believe.
We have all the evidence we need that racism exists from the lived experiences of people next to us in this room today, the students we teach and advise, and the climate on this campus, in our community, and beyond. We don't need anything else to believe it. We just need to believe it. I believe with work, Evergreen will be a place where our administration believes that racism is a crisis on our campus, in our community, and worldwide. Since we claim and aim to impact all of these places, the administration will support this by first and foremost working to constantly ensure the safety and autonomy of people of color, encouraging white people to unlearn all there is to always constantly unlearn, and promote dialogue that is absolutely not tokenizing or dismissive.
This, I believe, there's potential. There's absolute potential for positive change, because I honestly still love Evergreen. But I also believe there cannot be progress without students of color's feelings and emotions to be considered valid and important rather than denied.
I believe we, most white people, don't know what we don't know. I believe that we all come to engaging with difference, with racism, with our own personal journeys, informed by our race, our privilege or lack thereof, our life experiences, and if we're lucky, our influential teachers. I believe Evergreen has the potential to create a community where leaning into this work and elevating our capacity to teach and learn across and about race, racism, oppression, and privilege is the norm. I believe deeply in the critical and audacious goal of eliminating racism and violence in our world. I believe we're all privileged to engage in that work in a learning community that wants to be better. And I believe we have the will to do so.
The students of color need to be placed at the center of our work, and we need to see and value the assets that they bring and not position them as problems to be solved. This work requires us to be vulnerable and to say when we don't know how, and how we can look to the colleagues that we have around us to build and sustain capacity. This work is never done. This work is an ongoing process. If you think that we arrive when we get there and we're done and we can check it off our list, then we will be back in 5 years or 10 years with the same kind of questions. This is ongoing work. And I remember, and as I think about doing this work, and even as I thought about coming over here today, I was like, I'm tired. And I'm tired of talking about race, because it had been a difficult last couple of weeks talking about race and moving the conversation. And then you reminded me of my father, who was a construction worker, who got up in most extreme weather for minimum wage, because that was the only job he could do. And he never once said he was tired. So I caution us to think about, while we're tired perhaps of hearing it or doing the work, that we must continue to do the work.
What is the work? That's the
Wait, hold
work.
on. Yeah. So,
The
okay.
work.
The
I
work.
mean, yeah, I mean, I know, but I also, like,
and okay, so this is why I appreciate the what's been adopted by the so-called dissident right, like or the Machiavellians. It's like this ideology fits so well into bureaucratic systems. It gives it work to do.
It does.
Which is just, we're going to throw money at this problem.
Yeah.
We're going to give more jobs. So the apparatus. So it's not like this civilization ending thing. It's just this cancer that infects institutions and it bloats them.
Yeah.
And then it eats away at all of the actual skills, or the purpose of any institution. Education system, give you skills, go and produce something. No, it's the work is to focus. The work is to, it just like, it focuses right in, and it goes into a lot of the stuff that you talk about on a very deep level about like this very, I mean, you can, it's masturbatory, it's pornographic, and it cuts people off from each other on so many different, it cuts people off from life, and it traps them in this matrix, like of just like feeding on themselves and like eating each other. It's
it's
demonic.
It's so interesting how she says we'll never be done.
We'll never be done.
Like,
she's a true believer.
It's kind of like saying we'll never be satisfied. You can reach the goals that we suggest, and we will never be satisfied because we will just create new goals.
Yeah, and she brings up her father like actually doing actual work, and then says, okay, if my dad could do that and build a house, then we can sit in these offices and work. And if you go back to our last episode, she's the one who's in the canoe meeting saying, this was such hard work that we have to do this stuff. And all they're doing is sitting in these
all
hot
they're doing
rooms.
is talking
Over and over and over again.
It's just condescending to other people. That's
and
what the
breaking
work is.
facts. So they take facts and they break them to make the work, to get more power.
Well, and it's kind of sad for her father, who sounds like he was actually
It's sad for her.
like a person with a work ethic.
Look,
and a
if you
hard
look at
worker.
her
but she's
body.
implying that there's like it sounds like a soft implication that he was a victim, like it's the only job that he could get. And so it kind of undermines the value of his contribution and his work for his family. It's like, well, he was just a victim.
Yeah. And he set her up to do this. Which is to tear down ultimately, with her social stuff, to tear down everything that he built or participated in building, while claiming him as the victim.
So if she's a first generation college graduate, then
Yeah,
if she is, which maybe we could say is possible from her story about her dad. How many people are first generation college graduates and just feel really happy that they've achieved that in their family? But no, we can instead turn around and
do this work,
be a victim and do the work.
Do this work.
Yeah.
Do this work.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
This work takes the form of a series of lectures and faculty trainings, culminating in the formation of the Equity Council in spring 2016. So this is a through line to the canoe meeting, which is a through line to the protests.
Okay.
And continue. Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
So what do student protesters want? This was gathered around all the recent protests that have happened on college campuses. And the number one is increase the diversity of the professors. And that's why I think it's really important to focus there, because we often want to kind of, how do I get my students to understand this? And that is critical, but that is functioning to have us not look at ourselves as faculty, right? Whenever someone asks, how do I get so-and-so to understand this? I mean, that's important, but in that moment, the move you're making is the assumption, I already understand this. This is about getting somebody else to get where I am. And we need to go back to where that relentless self-reflection, humility, and grappling, right? Where am I not understanding something, and how might I be accountable to that? And so not just increasing the diversity of professors, but also requiring ongoing training and education. I think that racism is the most charged, the most complex, the most nuanced dynamic since the founding of our country. And to think that we wouldn't need lifelong continuing education on it, I think is really problematic, right? So one of the challenges for professors or faculty is we don't tend to be lifelong learners, right? We tend to kind of be a little bit arrogant about what we know. And actually, I know that your institution is working and struggling, right, to move this forward, and is putting together a cabinet, is that correct? A council, right? And, you can put pressure by, how's that going? And, what's going on? And I think as that happens, the racism that's embedded will surface more and more. One of the other challenges to this work is that we think when we start to talk about it and then it starts to surface, sometimes we think that us talking about it or caring about it or centering it is what's causing the problem. And I would say, no, you finally created a space for all that people have had to sit on and endure to come to the surface. That people are seeing something open that makes them feel like this might be the moment when I can start being real about what's going on. And as that happens, then you're going to have to endure, the white people on campus are going to have to endure looking at the way we've been colluding and maybe not knowing it. And I urge us to put our efforts on not protecting each other's feelings, but remembering it is inevitable that I have been colluding. I'm colluding every moment of my life. I'm also trying as hard as I can every moment to counter it, but we can never be free of it. And so you're going to start getting tensions and conflicts and hurt feelings because the fundamental idea of the good-bad binary hasn't been challenged. And that's how people are going to hear it. And the pressure, I'm sure you may have already been seeing. Anybody see any of this already? And so just, you're going to have to stay true and clear and keep reminding. It's inevitable. It's good that we're seeing it. If we can't see it, we can't interrupt it. We know that it's here. I mean, don't you have colleagues who you'd love to be here today and all the other ones that have been here, all your other talks, and they don't come because they don't think it's relevant to their discipline? Okay, so we do need to know how to frame it, so we push back on that. So I can't make you agree or disagree. I hate to even use that language of agree or disagree, but nonetheless. But when you're here, you are required by your job to create an atmosphere in which all children can learn, right? Your job is to provide education for everyone. And when you don't address these issues, you are creating a hostile environment and some students cannot learn, right? So you can believe whatever you want, but when we're here, we're going to use an racial equity approach. We're gonna grapple with it. We're gonna use it in our decisions. We're gonna struggle with integrating it into our curriculum because you work for an institution that's what we're doing, right? I often use, if I was working for a therapy organization and they use the Gestalt method, then when I'm at work, I have to use the Gestalt method when I'm doing therapy for them, and then I can go home and do my other ways, right? That idea that this is trying to control people's thinking, no, but not addressing these kinds of attitudes does affect people's abilities to learn, and that is part of your job. It's a theoretical framework, just like any other theoretical framework, but that's the one that this institution stands behind and that you're going to have to grapple with, right? So maybe that might be a great note to end on, right? So thank you so much.
As I'm leaving at this point, I know that as an alum, there is no way that I will ever suggest this college to any Black person, ever. And so I just want to be clear, because I know I sort of touched on it earlier and I let you kind of get a pass with this idea of like not being able to comment on any specific faculty who is racist and their like process, but I'm wondering if you can comment just in general, if there is any way that you are able to have any amount of say in firing racist faculty. Is there no process, just as I leave, so I can know, is there or is there not any way that students can not be exposed to racist faculty? Is there anything that you all can do about this when it's so blatant? You have all these people, campus-wide emails. I want to know specifically what needs to happen in order for openly racist faculty to not be employed here.
Yes. Yes. If you want to tell us you can't do it, that's all. You're going to say, I don't have the... I'm going to need him to get the fuck out, though. Brett is still here.
That is handled by the provost and by the dean.
That white girl sat him back down.
Thank you. I'm working on my hands.
So when you think about the story of who we are, that we are this country built on individual rights. We are the country where if you are coming from a place where you are not free, you can come to our shores and you can get freedom. Well, then you have black people. And every time you look at black Americans, you have to be reminded that there was 1/5 of our population who had no rights, no liberties, no freedom whatsoever. We are the constant reminder of really the lie at our origins, that while Thomas Jefferson was writing the Declaration of Independence, his enslaved brother-in-law was there to serve him and make sure that he's comfortable. So I think this explains a lot. The continued perception that black people are a problem, that black people are, as Abraham Lincoln said, a troublesome presence in American democracy, because every time you see us, you have to be reminded of our original sin. And no one wants to be reminded of sin. We're ashamed of sin.
Thank you. I'm working on my hands.
Yeah.
Well then, so much there. Robin DiAngelo, how do you like that? This is like explicitly an ideological. She says this is one theoretical framework, but this is the one ring to rule everything. If you show up to the work, you have to be doing this stuff. There's this total indoctrination, and the students are acting this out. And they're like, well, this is the framework we're going to do this. This is how we get power. And that's why I put in, and then in the surrounding, when I published this in 2019, not knowing that 2020 is going to happen, Hannah B. Jones, which I think is her, she goes as Nicole
Hannah Jones?
Nicole Hannah Jones.
I think that's what her name is.
She's taking the same framework, putting it in the New York Times. She gets a Pulitzer for the same exact shit. And it becomes the narrative in our entire country. And what is the result of that? Complete mayhem, complete distrust, a bunch of like virtue signaling, and then bureaucratic control.
Yeah. Well, and Robin DiAngelo, she addresses it head on for a second there. She says, you might argue that us doing all of this is what's increasing all of the problem. And then she dismisses it real quick. But no.
No,
It's actually
the
just
problem's
an
already
opportunity.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it already comes out. To understand her psychology, you have to understand she's operating with she's Catholic. She's operating with work and sin, and there's this constant debt that she has to constantly pay off, and it's in every single moment.
The whiteness is the original sin.
Yeah,
it's just
and then Hannah B. Jones. That's why I put it there, because Hannah B. Jones just like, okay, so she's distilling it even further. It gets stupider, and Marxism gets stupider and stupider and stupider until it gets to this point.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's really interesting to listen to the way Robin DiAngelo talks. She sounds like she's someone who's intellectualizing things. So she's taking her feelings and then she's crafting them into a rational narrative, intellectual. But what she's actually saying is that she is operating with a tremendous load of personal guilt and paranoia, and she's very highly neurotic. And then she's generalizing that out to other people.
And making money.
Oh, yeah, and selling her services. Like you said, just like selling more of her services, making sure that she's perpetually keeping herself employed.
The work.
The work.
This is the work. And we're saved not through faith, but through works. Constant bureaucratic meetings, basically. Somebody wants us to watch the next episode. I feel like we've kind of reached
Are you at
full capacity, but do you want to go again?
What do people think?
Let's
read a super chat and see if people give us their opinion. Okay, I think there's a super chat or two.
So Jenny. Okay, I have to rearrange this a little bit. Let's see if that works. John Brown, thank you very much. I wish I could do both.
I think that it's the very last one. This about the work from Jenny.
The work is Perpetual Struggle Sessions, Perpetual Revolution.
And the one right before that, I think, is a new one as well, also from Jenny. Thank you, Jenny, for the super chats.
And this is really, we're on a couch here. So would you say these kids are the product of Paulo Freire's schools? Is this what happens when kids learn activism instead of math, reading from K to 12 in college? Is it too late to stop? Well, to what degree does this sample replicate across all schools? I don't know. But you see that with the perfect collusion of the Bridges administration, a bunch of activist professors, and then a bunch of radicalized students who are also, you have to also understand this, that a lot of them are failing their classes. And this is the perfect opportunity to get excused from class.
yeah.
And one of their demands is that they don't have to take finals anymore. So it totally works into it. They're not prepared for college. So there's all these, and then they have a bunch of energy.
Yeah.
There's all these different layers of what's going on there. So to what degree are they acting out Freire, or to what degree is Freire or the ideas that have been dumbed down successfully just useful? They're just expedient. In the next episode, the protesters confront Brett, and then they confront Brett, and then they go and try to get food. And then you see just how immediate their needs are and like how far thinking they are. They just want to act out, and then they're like tired and they want more food. And then they demand food from the people that they hate.
Yep. Well, I think it looks like a lot of people want us to keep going. So
Okay.
maybe we could do just one more.
Okay. Let's power through it.
And do one more.
What do you have any other thoughts?
I have a lot of thoughts. This is it's a lot to digest.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have any observations worth sharing at the moment, though. So I'd like to see the next one.
Okay. So 7, 8.
One last question. Suppose, Lord Russell, this film were to be looked at by our descendants, like a Dead Sea Scroll in 1,000 years' time. What would you think it's worth telling that generation about the life you've lived and the lessons you've learned from it?
I should like to say two things. One intellectual and one moral. The intellectual thing I should want to say to them is this. When you are studying any matter or considering any philosophy, ask yourself only what are the facts and what is the truth that the facts bear out. Never let yourself be diverted either by what you would wish to believe or by what you think could have beneficent social effects if it were believed. But look only and solely at what are the facts.
I'm reading the Bible in the room and we're fucking done with this. Like, they haven't answered shit. So, like, how about administration, George, when do you get the fuck out? Like, we're done. Like,
no justice, fuck peace! 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 Fuck you, George! See your way out! Hey, fuck Brett too. He's not to get fired. Fuck you, Brett! Get out of my face! And all you other students here perpetuating white supremacy and racism, you guys get your ass out of here too. Yeah, see your way out. This is college.
So,
It just went on and on and on.
yeah, it was very long, and it was really hot. And there was only one exit. And then one of the other classmates came over to where I was sitting and told me to stay and to wait for Brett because there was a rumor that he wasn't going to be allowed to leave the room. And that was very concerning. So we all stayed and stuck close to Brett to make sure that he got out of there safely.
I had heard over text in the 4 o'clock meeting that I wasn't going to be allowed to leave, that people had mace, and that they should keep it under wraps. And I sent a text, which I later came to understand had traumatized Heather. I'd sent her a text saying I'm told I might not be allowed to leave, and then I had shut down my phone because my phone was going to run out of power, and I wanted to retain as much power as I could have so that if I did get kidnapped or something, that I could send a message out, right?
Okay.
Or, the other thing is, the whole event, as I was feeling endangered, I'm on a campus where I'm outnumbered and I'm on a campus where I'm outnumbered and suddenly understood to be a villain by lots of people. On the other hand, that campus is surrounded by forest, and it's forest that I know like the back of my hand. And I'm also a biologist dealing with what I think are mostly city kids, and my feeling is I'm not in a good position as long as I'm in buildings, but if I can get to the forest, I can get away. And anyway, I don't know whether they forgot, whether they thought better of it, which would be a good sign. But in any case, there was no attempt to, instead of allowing myself to be detained in that room, I started going out with other people. Nobody made any attempt to stop me. So I emerged from the building, and at that point, at the point that I hit the ground floor and was outside of the building, I did feel like, well, I don't know what that was, but at least I'm out here.
As we were leaving with Brett, people were calling us Nazis and white supremacists and racists, and I was just really curious how they felt that they knew who I was and what I believed and what my values and opinions were, because I've never met or spoken to any of them before. And then we left, and we were kind of just following Brett, and we didn't really know where he was going, but he was stopped a couple times and had some good conversations with a couple of the protesters, and I felt like they were getting somewhere. But then louder voices came and were just shouting him down, and they didn't let him speak anymore. They were just screaming in his face.
I felt endangered in that meeting. I had felt out of my depth. I don't know anybody who has a toolkit for dealing with an outraged, delusional mob. So that was not a familiar situation to me. Being outside, talking to students who were clearly confused about what was going on, but were interested in engaging, that's my home turf.
You need to make an apology for emails that you sent and how they've affected students on campus. Because regardless of what you think the truth in those emails were, those emails had a very direct effect on people, and you need to own that.
Listen, I believe I've heard what you have to say. I don't believe you've heard me.
I just think you come in and comment.
Okay, those emails do not say what you think they say.
Then why is there this pervasive feeling on campus that they do?
Well, you have studied your history, and you know that there are processes that take people over, right? There are things that happen at a witch burning, there are things that happen at a lynching, there are things that happen...
Do you think this is a witch hunt against you?
Well, I think this is a witch hunt, and I think I am the designated witch for the night, yes. Okay.
Yeah, he's made himself a target because he spoke out against something that nobody's really willing to talk about.
And I would, thank you, I would point out that a key feature of this dynamic is that there can be no visible diversity of opinion, which means that anybody who expresses another opinion, whether it be right or wrong, has to be stigmatized sufficiently powerfully that everybody else knows to shut up.
Exactly. No, I don't think that there's not that silencing aspect.
No! Can I ask you a question? What? Put yourself in my shoes for a second. Imagine sitting in that room, listening to people chanting.
Dude, you laughed the whole time.
I did. I laughed?
You didn't give a shit about anything.
He didn't. How
He
do you
never
know?
laughed at all.
You don't know me.
I fucking saw you.
Okay.
You were right in front of me, dude.
Okay, you think you know what you saw.
Dude, you're gonna use your rational bullshit. Fuck you, dude.
And you're going to be irrational about it.
Probably. Also, all the white people that want to talk at him, he's not disposable to you. You're white, he's white. We're through it together, so don't be reactionary about it. You're not doing shit.
Well, the first thing is I would like actually to be understood for what I actually am, whether that's right or wrong. And the fact is, this climate does not lend itself to that. It's not healthy. It's not. Frankly, you cannot have a college that functions this way. I understand.
You can't have a society that functions this way.
That's absolutely right. And the college is actually essential to society, and it's coming apart at the seams. And I'm not saying it's coming apart over nothing. What?
Rosh Hashem, let society fall.
Well, let society fall. You can't have society fall on a world with 400 nuclear reactors that have to be managed by somebody every day of every week. Society has to deal with its shit, no question, but it can't come apart. We have to deal with this properly. Stuff at stake.
Take pieces.
Society comes apart. 3 billion people are going to starve instantly. You don't want that. I don't want that.
What's that think about letting people of color ask white people to leave campus?
Wait. Say that again?
So you were the person that said that, like, people of color shouldn't be asking white people to leave campus for day and hour.
What I said was that there's a fundamental.
I wasn't talking to her.
Yeah.
So I don't
And I'm trying to answer you in good faith. What I said was that there is a fundamental difference between a population deciding to absent itself from campus and a population deciding to absent another population from campus. I still believe that that is true. That is not anti-black, it is not anti-POC, it is pro-equity. I stand for equity. Nobody understands that because they've read those emails through a particular lens. You are looking for evidence of racism.
I don't understand what equity is in the context that you're using it. It sounds like you're talking about equality.
The word phenotype in a biological way, which actually is not how race works.
Wait. I know a lot about how race works. I know that race is not a legitimate concept, but I also know that population is a legitimate concept. Race is the bastardization that privilege has used to distort population.
Yes.
But you understand that historic. Oh, I'm so sorry.
I don't think you really understand. Like, you seem to understand like some concept that okay, what I say is legit. I honestly think that you think that you're actually talking in an equitable way.
Wait, say it again.
I think you actually think maybe sometimes you talk in an equitable way.
In an equitable way?
Yeah, you don't.
I do. I have a fundamental belief that it takes time to to understand each other.
Okay, well,
and that if you did understand what I was intending to say, that you would find me equitable. I really believe that. But we can't get there instantaneously.
Okay, so, but the thing is that for the entire fall quarter,
yes,
I watched, you know, I had to put in a filter at some point, like, okay, Kurt Weinstein emails go over to you. Sure. Right? But I still went and looked on Twitter while it's necessary. Every single time you said something, you had students, you had faculty of color or faculty, women faculty, tell you maybe you're wrong. Mm-hmm. Right? So why did you continue?
Well, first of all, I don't think that's how right and wrong works.
Okay.
Right and wrong are a matter of reason and logic. Nobody has a claim on it.
And I think that's the biggest problem you're having. You're seeing this logic, purely illogical reason way, as a scientist.
Yeah.
That's legit.
Well, like
but we are on a liberal arts campus.
Yep.
We are a cross-disciplinary, interdivisional campus of the liberal arts.
Do you know that I'm not in one of the science planning units, that I'm in consciousness
I know
studies?
where you are, honey. I even know what dean you have. That's great. What you say, does it harm people?
I'm right here, I can answer that.
Is it a construct of violence?
Because if people are telling you that we are being neglected and that you are harming us, it means you're harming somebody. It doesn't get more complex than that.
I mean,
I think it does.
It doesn't.
I think it does get more complex.
Okay. Look, you are in a system that does harm consistently. I am a part of that system. I understand that. Now, whether my words have a consequence that does harm, I can't control. I do know that the intent is not the one that has been read into those emails, and that if you
Keep your words away. Then stop with the words.
Right, I think
you need that.
Yeah,
Can you let words?
You need to understand that your intent, if it affects people, you just shouldn't say anything at all.
I'm not telling you that I'm not in a position to control my words. I'm telling you I am not in a position to control how they are interpreted.
Then you just should, if they're interpreted in a bad way by any person, you need to recognize, and it's not just one person, that's the issue, it's a lot of people that are harmed by your words, and you're still sitting here saying that's not your intent. It doesn't matter what your intent was, it still happened. So how do you take accountability for that?
Can you hear me for a second? I think 95% of the people who are reacting the way they are good people who genuinely...
Only 95%?
I leave open...
And I hope that's including white people that are being here as allies too.
trying to tell you, could be 100%, I think it's at least 95% of the people who are having this reaction to me are having this reaction thinking they understand what it is that I am about and thinking they're taking the correct action. What I am telling you is you misunderstand who you're dealing with.
Well, then maybe you just shouldn't say it.
That is
Maybe
one
you should
approach,
get to know
but
what
the
he's
problem
saying.
is-
Why can't you?
You want to know why?
Why did you not just shut the fuck up?
Okay, let me give you the answer to that. The answer to that is, I do not believe that we can get to rational answers if there's no diversity of opinion, and that what is happening is that a system to penalize those with different opinions has emerged so that it appears that we have consensus, which we
But you
don't.
just said the system was just set up against these people, but now you're saying the same system is set up to work against you to not be able to oppress us?
No. I believe that people are earnestly penalizing a diversity of opinions so that we have a false consensus. That's different than the thing that you are reacting to, which is a system that has structural biases in it.
But if we're reading the emails specifically because we've read them and that the content within that email is making us uncomfortable, we're not reacting to a system, we're acting to your words and actions.
Well, I would say this.
And that's an issue within yourself. That's not an issue that you're trying to make the college take accountability for you, and they do need to take accountability, but not in this pretense of this is your actions and
I
your
don't
doing.
think it's that simple.
That's when you listen and apologize and say, how can I do better? That's when you ask.
Do you not hear me? Do you not hear me?
You know you're not, because here you have a white ally telling you no, I'm telling you no, and you still don't get it.
My current program is about building a world that is permanently, structurally fair. Racism is an offense, and the reason that racism is an offense to me personally is that it squanders human potential. When somebody who could be doing something marvelous is cleaning somebody else's toilet because of structural racism, that is offensive to me. I do not accept that it is okay in any way. I want to see it change.
So then what are you doing, if it's something that's so near and dear to your heart, to make college more accessible for students of color and to dismantle the system that often leads them to a school or prison pipeline?
Teaching us that very lesson in our class. Exactly what you just said.
Well, she said very much what I would say. What I would say is I want students to come into my class so they understand the deep reasons that these biases exist, how they came to be, which is in fact an evolutionary phenomenon.
So are you inviting us to come to your class as an open panel, or are you suggesting that we pay money for you to tell us about how we're treated?
We were having a good conversation.
Who's your dean? This is bullshit! Hey, you don't need to talk to him. He likes this shit. You know, let's go ahead. It doesn't matter. Don't talk to him. Talk to the anyway.
I've been noticing a lot of black people in black books who are like directly talking to this man. Where the fuck are all you white people? Where the fuck are your voices in this? Because you, as white people, are perpetrating white supremacy. And so is this man. Where the fuck are all of you at? As our allies, as our accomplices. Shut the fuck up. I am not referring to you. I'm referring to all of these people that are my allies. Where the fuck are you?
I was just having a private conversation with this guy. I don't even know him.
Where are you?
Huh? I don't know the guy. I just want to get to know him. That's all. I've noticed that he's been targeted and whatnot, or he's been bad guy to people, and I'm like, hey, everybody sees that too. I mean, I want to get to know the guy. He looks like a cool guy to hang out with.
This is what I'm asking. Dialogue. It's not so tough.
We're just having a private conversation.
What? 1491 describes the state of the New World prior to European conquest. My point is, he's telling me that I need to understand something about other populations.
No, that's not what I said. I said you need to stop demanding that everybody use logic and reason and white forms of knowledge to fucking prove yourself to the world.
That's exactly
Tell me.
I just like feel like
millions of people in this country saying one thing, and you cannot
as a white person, tell people of color that their experiences do not matter because there are millions of people saying the same thing. And also,
When did I say that?
I'm not talking to you, sir. Your point, young lady, your single experience does not override the experience of all other people of color.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Fascinating.
It started out okay.
Yeah, it started out fine, and then there was all that.
It started out.
But you know what? We all walked out, and there was no violence. So.
You know, again, it just felt like unconfusing college students. That was my job.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter what topic you're on. The question is, are you seeing it correctly or are you not? And what tools would you use? And so anyway, I think what you hear in that clip is me feeling like I am in contentious but familiar waters.
Mm-hmm.
Look only and solely at what are the facts. That is the intellectual thing that I should wish to say. The moral thing I should wish to say to them is very simple. I should say, love is wise, hatred is foolish. In this world, which is getting more and more closely interconnected, we have to learn to tolerate each other. We have to learn to put up with the fact that some people say things that we don't like. We can only live together in that way. But if we are to live together and not die together, we must learn a kind of charity and a kind of tolerance, which is absolutely vital to the continuation of human life on this planet.
Hey, baby.
I was really impressed with Brett's patience in that conversation. He kept his cool very well.
Yeah.
He stayed really rational. That's really impressive.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Mhm.
Phenomenal
Mhm.
under fire. That guy, like somebody said, it was his moment of glory, and
Yeah, it was-
absolutely, that's peak Brett Weinstein. Like no
Yes.
matter what he's done since then, and you can have one opinion or another, or a
No, it was
variety of
excellent.
but that was just like peak Professor, and he said that at the end, like he was in
Mhm.
familiar territory. His job is to unconfuse college students.
Yeah, it was really good. I feel like it's so shocking to me to hear the verbal abuse that these kids were so freely throwing about. And I feel like the university lost its entire mission by allowing that. By just endorsing, allowing, and placating, and not immediately suspending or expelling those students.
Yeah.
That was the only solution that would have saved them.
Well, so there's that solution.
Mm.
There's a solution to ignore it, and then there's the solution which the college did take was
Mm.
to put those students into positions of power and give them
Call
the
them
microphone.
student leaders.
They did that the next year. They were all hired to do all of the orientations for the next.
So it wasn't
year.
just lip service during the protest.
No, they actually paid them
did.
through the summer to rewrite the student code of conduct. These kids.
Wow.
And then to give the next year's orientations.
Oh, that's really horrific. That's really rewarding some horrible behavior.
Yeah. It's shocking. It's
Mhm.
absolutely shocking.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, it's just shocking. It's absolutely
Mhm.
shocking that the school's still there, that they all get paid off. The only people that suffer are the people who are following the rules.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only
The
people who
Chinese
suffer.
student. That's something that's really staying with me from this.
Yeah.
Was the Chinese student who tried to speak up.
Yeah.
What bravery that must have taken a foreigner.
Yeah.
To an exchange student.
Yeah.
To stand up and say, I don't think you guys understand. I think you're taking this the wrong way. What an incredible moment that it must have been for her to do that and to then just be shouted down.
Yeah. Yeah. Later on in the series, episode 16, I think. All I do is for the intro, I just overlay the Cultural Revolution propaganda and with Evergreen. And it's total Cultural Revolution.
Wow.
And the kid that goes up behind, I think it was in the previous episode, they start to control Bridges' hands.
I saw that.
And then this kid comes up, and you can see him in the footage, like going around.
Oh.
And I wish I had his camera. I said this in the last time we watched this. Like, he's filming the whole thing, and he does this thing, like he's this enforcer, and you see him like just like clap when it's time to clap. You see this sense of he's really dumb. But he's following orders, and he feels proud. He feels powerful. He's like, okay, he's a foot soldier. He's a useful idiot.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like one of the things you said about how a lot of these students were doing really poorly in their classes. They were failing. You know, do you remember in school, everything would be droning along. It's kind of hard. It's kind of boring. It's just this drony sort of experience. And then something happens, and like the fire alarm goes off, and you all get to go out. It's like, you just like get this break from it.
Yeah.
Or that they roll in a TV. You remember when they used to roll TVs in?
Yeah.
And it would be like, oh, we're going to show you something. Everybody's like, it feels like,
reprieve.
It's just, so this kind of seems like an extended reprieve.
No, in our talk we did on your channel, and I think I reposted to mine, it was like, it's protest season, and we get into
the one with Melanie Bennett.
No, I think it was you, me, and Jen. No, it was Deborah.
Oh yeah, for Solid Ground.
And we were just talking about the Columbia protests and stuff. I brought
that
up. I'm like, a lot of the energy is that this is just an opportunity to get out of class, have a party before class ends, and to break out of that monotony of this long winter of just like plugging away. It's like, now you have a revolution. I think that works into the bureaucratic apparatus. Like, okay, we're going to teach you. You have to do your work, and then you get to have a little revolution, and we'll sign off your thing.
It's like the 2 minutes hate. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you drone and you drone and you drone, but then government gives you your little reward. You can act out in this way.
Yeah.
And do it in exactly this way. And it'll discharge a lot of that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really interesting.
It's fascinating because a lot of the true believers don't know that that's what they're doing, that they're playing into this bureaucratic, all-consuming, unifying, homogenizing everything that they're fighting against system.
Yeah.
They just externalize it. It's just fascinating.
Huh? Wow. Well, thank you for what are we? How many parts we've gone through 8 of 24.
Oh man, yeah, was that 8? Yeah, man. So we're 1/3 of the way done. Is that how math works? Teaching one of your sons division. I should be able to do it on the fly.
Got a couple super chats there.
Yeah, let me give you. I just have to get this thing to.
I think it's in order. Oh, like that.
So Jenny, you gotta get paid for doing the work.
Jen
I saw this
says
on
thanks for
X.
streaming.
My cousin wanted to go to Evergreen, and she didn't know what a gulag was. Gives you some perspective on the students there. Thanks for the trip down memory lane. Logic plus reason equals white knowledge. That's one of the best quotes. Stop using your logic and your reason and your white ways of knowing. And somebody else, there was something really offensive that I don't know if it made it in that or I might have missed it, but some Jewish student is calling Brett a yid and then like saying Yom Kasher. Like yid is it's pejorative for Yiddish.
Okay.
It's like Jap or like there's other like it's a slang, derogatory slang. But he says something about if society collapses, God will it. That took me a long time to figure out all that audio, and I'm sorry, it sounded horrible in my ear. The transcription was more or less on point, but it took a lot of like work to get that down.
Yeah, I can tell it was pretty
that
shaky.
That phrase, the only thing that I could do, because he said Yid before that was like, okay, this might be a Yiddish phrase or a Hebrew phrase, and so God, if society falls, then God let society fall, because we can't have a society that does this. Brett comes back. Well, yeah, if society falls, 3 billion people starve instantly because of all of our infrastructure. Like, it's just not tenable. Are you guys thinking through this? Which goes into the whole like WEF, like Masters in the Universe. Why would they play into this thing? Which I don't think is as salient as just the system itself perpetuates. The system itself finds adherents to it, rewards those adherents.
Well, I don't think it takes much of a conspiracy mindset to see that our education system is about making compliant and orderly citizens. It's not about anything else. And so, if they're going to give you your certain, if the education system starts to teach you to be activists, well, why are they teaching you that? They want you to do something. There's some purpose to it. I don't think you have to be conspiracy minded to ask what is the reason for this, and then look around for obvious reasons.
Yeah, there was that article where a student gets arrested a month ago or something, and then complains like, "But the only reason I got into college is because of all the activist work that I did." It's like faculty that admits leopards that eat your face off, surprised that the leopard ate their face.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, there's this beautiful George chimes in. The more articulate of the students confronting Brett very plainly states that this is a conflict of faiths, of religious terms, of the origin of value. There is deep things going on in here. This is why this story is so fascinating to me, because there's all these there's all this drama, all these characters, all these details, this ideology, and just this emergent property, and then like this weird evergreen glaze on it, and then like these colorful characters and stuff, and then like it launches Brett Weinstein and his trajectory, which is pretty grand. And my humble beginnings runs me into you, my white body and your white body. What? I'm just using technical terms here.
I don't like the body language.
Okay.
That's weird.
Well, you liked it last night. But if society collapses, nature wills it. Common ground. Let's wrap this up for common ground. I wonder that a lot of people waking up now feel like we all felt as we experienced the Evergreen Spring. I see folks struggling to understand. Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's interesting. Well, we have a few more episodes to do. It is now mid-May. Do you have anything coming up to your channel that you can plug? I have some interviews, some wonderful detransition interviews that go from detransition into like the Israeli-Palestine conflict from a first-person perspective, and then somebody who's a detransitioner who was at ground zero of the George Floyd thing. So all these kind of interconnecting stories are like going in the under that umbrella. And then I have a couple other talks coming up. What about you?
Well, tomorrow I'm going to talk with Rick Boshart and another doctor about DEI in medicine again. So we're going to have a conversation about that. I think that should be interesting.
Rick's great.
Yeah, so that'll be out probably next week. And have some more things coming up. But
and as ever on Monday morning, you stream on your channel, The Radical Center.
The Radical Center, Monday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah. What's the theme?
I think you had another.
Oh, was there one?
Super chat. Yeah.
Sneak in? I don't see it.
Yeah, it will. It popped up here. So
okay,
I think so. Yeah. Oh no. No, maybe not.
No,
maybe not.
It's just somebody.
False alarm.
Somebody commented.
Aw, Ninja Kitty, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Ninja.
Yep. So we'll see you guys Monday morning if you want to pop into the chat.
Subscribe, consider donating for the Cat Fund. Other than that, thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll check you on the flip side. You guys have a wonderful spring as it's in full fling.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.